Right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Emerge into Equity, Women in the Time of COVID-19. Today's panel discussion is on employment and childcare. This is the third installment of a series of panels hosted by LA City Councilmember David Ryu and the Los Angeles Commission on the Status of Women. We have an amazing program today with some incredible women leaders and panelists. Before we begin, I'm going to pass it off to Adina Bleish, Deputy Chief of Staff for Councilmember David Ryu, to go over the format of today's discussion. Adina?
Thank you so much all for being here. This conversation is especially important to me because I am working from home with a 2-year-old and a 3-year-old. So exactly. And just wanted to draw your attention to the agenda. We will be going through, the council member will have everybody introduce themselves, and then we'll go through some moderated questions. And as questions come up for you, if you can please use the Q&A icon. It is not the chat function, but the one that has 2 conversation bubbles. That is the best way to effectively ask questions in the Zoom, so that we can keep them all in one place. So with that, I will turn the forum over to Councilmember Ryu. Thank you.
Thank you, Adina. Thank you, Mark. And hello, everybody. I'm Councilmember David Ryu, and thank you all for joining us today for the third and final webinar in our series. And I want to give a tremendous thank you again to the Los Angeles Commission on the Status of Women for co-hosting the series with me. But before we begin, I do want to acknowledge that what happened this past Friday. We lost a champion for women's rights and equality. And I think it's only right that we hold today's discussion in honor of the late Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Well, today we have an incredible discussion together. We've already had incredible discussions together on mental health, homelessness, domestic violence, and other issues with some amazing panelists in the past. But today, we have another panel of remarkable women leaders who will be hosting. We'll be talking about another series of conversation on the unique impacts that COVID-19 pandemic has on women. And in particular, today we will be discussing employment and childcare. As we have seen, COVID-19 pandemic has led to a childcare crisis, as well as an employment crisis. In fact, 74% of close contact and essential jobs, which cannot be done remotely, are done by women. And with childcare centers and schools closing all across the city, in the country, temporarily or permanently, working women are even more affected. In fact, 1 out of 4 women who are have reported becoming unemployed during COVID-19 said it was due to a lack of childcare, which is twice the rate that men have reported. Childcare was already in a precarious situation going into the pandemic, and these programs are often underfunded and seen as a luxury that very few could afford. Additionally, to compound this problem, childcare providers who are severely underpaid are 94% women and now face significant job loss during the pandemic. Thus, it is crucial that we have this kind of conversations and bring attention to these issues. And to do this, we have a fantastic group of panelists here today, and I want to make sure we spend as much time as possible hearing from them. First, I want to ask the panelists to introduce themselves, starting with the incredible advocate and someone who has been fighting to guarantee fair rights and wages for childcare workers, Senator Holly Mitchell. Senator, do you want to introduce yourself?
I'm Senator Holly Mitchell. I've been a longtime fighter for childcare and working families and working mothers, because I'm a working mother who needed childcare the vast majority of my professional life myself. Councilman, it's a pleasure to be here. I'm a member of the State Commission for Women and Girls. And I want to give a shout out to, I know that there are a number of young women from Mount St. Mary's on the line today. So they are our future women fighters and advocates, because all of us, in honor of the Supreme Court Justice, have to step up and figure out how we're going to be ruthless in our own advocacy. Thank you for having me. I look forward to the conversation.
Thank you, Senator. Next, we are very fortunate to have Gloria Davis, who is the Executive Director of the Girls Club Los Angeles and has served over 75,000 children and families over 35 years. Gloria, you want to introduce yourself? Oh, wait, you're muted. You got to unmute.
Oh, okay. Okay,
There
there I
you
go. First of all, I just want to thank you, Councilman, for bringing this important topic to the forefront, employment and child care in the field of early education. We need more champions like yourself and the senators. Early childhood education is a calling for me. It's a passion, and it's a tremendous responsibility. I'm Gloria Davis, and I'm the executive director for the Girls Club of Los Angeles, and I oversee an array of programs exemplifying our mission, committed to meeting the needs of children, youth, and families, and seeing that each becomes successful, self-sufficient, and stable individual. We do this through early education and youth development. We have an accredited early education program, one of the first ones in South Los Angeles that was accredited. Community engagement, training and advocacy, extended opportunities, resources, and connection. Girls Club has a cradle to career approach to provide those in need. To new and expectant parents, Girls Club deliver parenting classes to give family the right start to life. For the children in the community, we provide early education, preschool, summer school programs to give youngsters both educational and socialization. We also work with middle schools and high schools in class and after school program to shepherd their development. We feed the community every Wednesday and every Friday to families that are struggling to make ends meet. Through Community Health Council, we have a regional grab and go farm boxes that we was able to expand during COVID-19. We also have a multi-generational approach. We have community volunteers with Pepperdine University, a senior foster grandparent program that we have been a member of since they was over in South Los Angeles community. We support child care because every child matters. Every child matters. Nowhere, it doesn't matter where they're born. They deserve dignity to be treated as if they were destined for success. Thank you. Also, I am representing the Black women leaders of Los Angeles. You had our leader, our fearless leader on Candy, Black women leaders of Los Angeles. We are trusted, respected coalition of executive CEOs and senior managers serving the community of Los Angeles. So thank you for allowing me to be here today. It's a pleasure.
Thank you, Gloria. Next, we have the fantastic Fabiola Montiel from First 5 LA, the largest funder of early childhood in the state. Fabiola, go ahead.
Thank you so much, Council Member. And on behalf of First 5 LA, I want to thank you, your team, and the panelists for being here today. I also want to thank and acknowledge everyone who is managing childcare while tuning into this panel. In unprecedented times, those parents who must be both parent and professional during the day are bearing the brunt of the work. My name is Fabiola Montiel, and I am a Community Relations Manager with First 5 LA. I am an immigrant, mother and spouse, and temporary assistant to my child during distance learning. To help frame what I'll be sharing with you today, I want to share some brain science. 90% of brain development happens during the first 5 years of life. And each second during that time, there are millions of new neural connections formed. What happens during the first 5 years of life shapes children's future. And First 5 LA is an independent public agency formed to help to support the safe and healthy development during that critical 0 to 5 window, so that by 2028, all children in LA County enter kindergarten ready to succeed in school and life. And the dedicated people I work with do amazing efforts, make amazing efforts for kids, and I am glad to have the opportunity to talk about it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Fabiola, and thank you for providing those statistics. Another more reason why we need paid parental leave policy here in the United States.
Yes.
And finally, we have the amazing Melany de la Cruz-Viesca of the UCLA Asian American Studies Center, who I have known for decades. Melany, go ahead.
Well, thank you, Councilmember Ryu and the Commission on Status Women for including me in this important and much needed discussion. I'm with the Asian American Studies Center, the associate director there. That's one of the 4 ethnic studies research centers under the Institute for American Cultures. And I'm also the chair of the research working group for a nationwide Closing the Women's Wealth Gap initiative. So today I'll be sharing my research on closing the racial and gender wealth gaps from the census. But I've also had the extraordinary opportunity to serve on the LA City Human Relations Commission for the past 12 years, which is now excitingly part of the new Department of Civil and Human Rights, along with the Office of Racial Equity, Commission on Status Women, and other commissions. And so we're currently working to address the disproportionate impact of the pandemic has had on immigrant, transgender women, and communities of color, and other disadvantaged communities, and particularly around hate crimes, policing, and access to housing, health, and economic resources. And so I look forward to this discussion. Thanks.
Thank you, Melany. And we're going to jump right into questions. But I do want to remind everybody on this webinar that if you do want to ask a question, you could use the Q&A function. And please try to put in your questions earlier, because we usually get a large number of questions at the very end. And we want to be very mindful of everyone's time. So I want to start with Senator Holly Mitchell. And I'm going to ask this similar question to all of the panelists from their lens as well. But Senator, as someone who has spent decades fighting for equity for women and families, can you talk a little bit about the trends that you are seeing for women in the wake of COVID-19 pandemic that make the gender gap in employment greater than ever before?
Thank you, Councilman. And as you emphasize decades, with my gray patch here showing, I think the reality is, as women I'm sure can attest, is we shouldn't be surprised about the disproportionate impact COVID had on women, because the areas we're struggling in now are the areas that we struggled in pre-COVID. And so, as Fabiola beautifully included in her introduction, she's serving as assistant to her daughter, who is homeschooling. Quite frankly, the reality is women bear the brunt of all caregiving responsibilities in our society. I was, before my parents passed, classic sandwich generation. There was a point in time when I was caring for my mother towards the end of her life, as well as my son. And so as the caregiver and a professional working woman, I was having to balance both ends. And the fact that the statistics you shared, given the percentage of women who are in the essential workforce, many of whom are underpaid for the nature of the work. We call it essential, but we don't treat it essential. From childcare providers to in-home support care workers to nursing home workers to school teachers, we don't pay them as if they're essential. And so we are having to balance trying to figure out how to keep ourselves safe, go to work, and continue those pre-COVID caregiving responsibilities, all the while watching this public health and economic pandemic really swirl around us. And so it's not new. Women have continued to manage these, this juggling, this balancing act, and COVID, from my perspective, has only exacerbated it, particularly for women who are on the margins. Women, my resident, my non-citizen sisters, our immigrant brothers and sisters mainly, those who are low income, those who are from communities of color, who are already experiencing living in food deserts, having insecure health care, insecure consistent housing, and in many instances underpaid employment. Those are the issues that we fight against and about every day, and COVID just exacerbated it, Councilman.
Thank you, Senator. And and as you stated, especially for our sisters and women who are undocumented, there are services available for you. We'll go over it later as well, but you can easily go to my website or the Senator's website. There's a list of services. One that comes to mind is the Jewish Free Loan Association, which created actually a fund just for childcare. And it's interest-free, no processing fee, and it does not matter who you are. Your documented status does not matter. So there's lots of resources available.
And it was important for state and local government to step in, because that's the area where the federal government leaves us all exposed. And so I too am proud to be a part of a state administration that also stepped in to create, microloans for true small businesses and micro businesses through the state iBank, when the Federal Small Business Association left them out. that we've continued to push and expand access to Medi-Cal for those who are income eligible, but for their immigration status, otherwise would be eligible. So we've continued to expand access to Medi-Cal, and state dollars have to fill in that gap. And the state also stepped up to provide support to child care providers, to expand slots for those who are essential workers, to augment the budget. So those who we were asking to reopen so people could go to work, that we augmented their reimbursement rate for cleaning supplies, because we know to open a safe child care center in this environment, it's going to take extra time, extra resources, and extra work. And so the state stepped in for those who provide child care to children who receive subsidy as well. So you're right, local government had to fill in the gap when the federal government left us vulnerable.
Yeah. It's a great partnership, but we're still in need. So, but you know, and Gloria, so I want to get your perspective from a provider. The Girls Club LA has been serving the community for 35 years in South LA, and you've been through the good times and the bad times. What trends are you seeing from your lens that you have not seen in the past, especially for young women since the pandemic began?
Well, the pandemic did hit us hard, and being a provider, and I want to thank the senator for, we had to close down. And it was a huge change. I mean, we had to pivot right away. I think it was like March 12th. We was getting ready. LA Unified had already been out the week before. And so we had to leave. So we pivot right away. And our families, most days we have about 80 to 90 children coming into the center. So families was picking up children. And what we did, the very next week, we just started reaching out to those families, doing need assessment. I mean, it was so basic. Some families didn't have paper and pencil. So we had to get crayons. We were sending packages home. The teachers was contacting children. So, you know, I've seen that, I mean, it has changed tremendously how we was providing service before. I mean, before we was doing everything developmental appropriate. Now we was just taking care of basic needs. That's all we could do at that point. Just try to take care of these families' basic needs. And some did not have food because in early education, the children, we provide breakfast, lunch, and snack for those children. And some of them had children in preschool, some in elementary school, high school. So now we had to figure out, okay, how do we help them? Because we were still getting our funds, and the staff, they was working from home. So we, my board and myself, we was trying to, well, what is it that we can do? So we had already started a food program. So we just continued to do that and just tried to do the best that we could until we started leveraging other resources.
Thank you, Gloria. And I'm going to come back to the work environment after I get through everybody, but thank you for bringing that up. Fabiola, I want to get your perspective here. What's the current state of childcare in Los Angeles during the COVID-19 pandemic? And can you actually comment on the trends for communities of color and underserved communities, and for the actual childcare workers themselves, who the majority, as we've said many times in this panel, are women?
Yes. As you mentioned, even before the pandemic, access to affordable childcare was a challenge. There was a report in 2018 by Advancement Project California of a baby and toddler care crisis. So although 51% of babies and toddlers were eligible for state-subsidized childcare programs, only 6% of them received it, mainly due to a lack of availability. In some parts of the county, only 3% received it. Now, during this crisis, access to childcare has decreased. In April, 66% of Los Angeles County's licensed preschools and childcare centers had closed. As these mass closures were felt throughout the state, as a response, one happened at the county level, at the state level, the California Early Care and Education Coalition, of which First LA is a partner, helped secure $50 million from the state for emergency vouchers to assist essential workers in paying for childcare. And essential workers can access the vouchers through resource and referral agencies. At the county level, the Los Angeles County Early Childhood Education COVID-19 response team is supporting families and childcare providers during this pandemic. Several cities across LA County, including Los Angeles, are also following through. So these efforts are necessary. parents rely on accessible and affordable childcare so they can work. So how is this affecting the families? You mentioned that also the decision that families are facing right now has an impact on their finances, and that is to quit or not to quit their jobs. We also heard that it is mostly women who face this decision. There's a recent article by KPCC's early childhood reporter, Mariana Deo, that tells us how this current lack of childcare impacts mothers disproportionately across multifamily, two-parent and single-parent households. Mothers are working fewer hours, they are quitting their paid jobs, are being furloughed or laid off. And some mothers are working more hours because they are the ones responding to community needs while their children are learning from home. A friend of mine, I tell you quickly, recently shared about her second grader, and she was asking for her help with her homework. And my friend was working late in the evening, so she said, yes, sweetheart, after my meeting ends. But her child just fell asleep waiting for her turn. And it's because families also need childcare at different times, day or night, to provide for their families. And you're saying childcare, there's childcare business owners, early educators, assistant educators, and the families that rely on childcare. Also for the children, I have shared with you how important the first 5 years are. And quality childcare that promotes positive interactions has an impact on children's well-being today and in their future. So this current lack of childcare is having an impact across many sectors, affecting the people who are providing childcare, the families who rely on it, the children themselves. And it's across sectors. There are already some signs that even though the manufacturing industry is recovering, the employers are unable to find or to hire or bring back those workers during these times because they are citing childcare concerns.
Thank you. And I saw the senator nodding her head. I'm going to come right back to you because I know you want to add on to a lot of the stuff that Fabiola said right after I get Melany to jump in here. And actually I have a more specific question for Melany because before the pandemic, you actually authored a work called Color of Wealth in Los Angeles, which was the first report examining the racial wealth gap in Los Angeles. But you also at the same time ran webinars titled Not Crazy Rich Asians, exposing the realities and stereotypes when it comes to wealth in Los Angeles. So can you talk about what the wealth gap in Los Angeles is for women and if the inequities have gotten worse or changed?
Yes, and the Crazy Rich Asians really helped us flip the script and think about wealth in different ways. But the Color Wealth Report really revealed an astounding racial wealth gap in LA. The typical US born Black or Mexican family, for example, had 1 cent for every dollar of wealth held by the average white family. A Vietnamese family had 17 cents for every dollar of wealth owned by a comparable white family. Black, Mexican, and Vietnamese families tend to lack the liquid assets such as a home, savings, or money market fund, certificate of deposits that can be quickly converted into cash in times of reduced income or increased cost of living. Immigrants from Mexico and Vietnam often are not able to save or build assets because they send remittances back to the motherland. And for Black, Mexican, and other Latinos, we know that check cashing and payday lending is another layer that strips wealth and prevents these communities from building assets. But for women, we often see a lot of discussion about what women earn compared to men, but there's less discussion about women having significantly less wealth than men. While women earn an average of 79 cents for every dollar earned by men, they only own a stunning 32 cents for every dollar of wealth owned by their male counterparts. And it's especially acute for Black and Latino women who own pennies on the dollar compared to both white and women. And we're as the economy continues to be hit hard, we're more likely to see that this gender wealth gap is most likely to worsen, as during the couple of months we've seen more than 3 million workers in California lose their jobs as a result of the pandemic, more than any other state. More than 900,000 Californians have lost their jobs due to layoffs and have stopped looking for work as a result of the pandemic. And 1/3 of Californians who are receiving unemployment insurance are Latino, because even though Latinos are 59% of Californians, they are ineligible for unemployment insurance. And this is most likely due to undocumented status, or even though they're paying taxes using ITIN, or because they work in a cash economy. So see, these are some of the critical issues that we're facing at this time when it comes to these wealth gaps.
Thank you, Melanie. Thank you for that. I want to jump back now to and let the senator. And actually, we got a lot of great questions coming in, and I want the senator to actually comment on add on to what Fabiola was talking about, all the various programs. But in specific, you could also answer this question as well. How are the tax dollars in the city and county of LA and throughout California being allocated to directly support working class, low and middle income families and households who need services like childcare? And so you could mention, you could add on to the list that Fabiola was talking about. And are there enough tax dollars to directly impact all those in need? If not, then how can you or our leaders lead the effort in realizing this?
That's an excellent question. I just happened to click over. I saw, oh, Q&A, and I clicked on it and I read that question. It's a great question. And you know, our job as leaders is really to make sure that we are supporting the entire economy. One thing that's interesting about this public health and economic pandemic is everyone was touched at across the socioeconomic spectrum. And so the fact that at the state level that we were able to fully fund K through 14 education this year impacts everybody who has kids. And so while we've talked about some of the child care subsidy program, also please understand it's that the subsidy program in the state of California is the true foundation upon which all child care is supported. And so even if you're a middle class working family and you don't qualify for a government subsidy to help you pay for your child care, please know that when we remove the billions of public dollars from the child care sector, everyone loses. So even though you may not be a direct beneficiary of the subsidy, the fact that we're able to keep the child care industry afloat, that the public dollars are able to help child care providers pay these additional costs, that keeps costs lower. It keeps costs down, quite frankly, for what we call private pay families in the child care industry. And so it's always our goal at the state level, we have to, based on the state's constitution, pass a balanced budget. We are already looking at an $8 billion shortfall for next year. So the end of the question was like, then what do you do? Well, you know where government gets its money, from all of us. Unlike the federal government, at the state level and the local level, we don't get to manufacture money. We have to either tax people, products, services, or companies in order to afford all of the products, services, and needs of our constituency. And so what we did at the state level is we didn't want to pass the burden at this difficult time where everyone is suffering economically because of this pandemic. We didn't want to pass on additional costs to overburden you, so we didn't do that. How we are able to continue as we figure out a full economic recovery, very delicately. You will hear, I've heard City of LA is already talking about a deficit and the ways in which they're going to close their budget deficit. The county the same. At the state level, we passed our budget June 15th with the full expectation that the federal government was going to continue to provide support to states and local entities. The federal government has really been good to California thus far. The City of LA and the County of LA have benefited to the tunes of hundreds of millions of dollars. And that support is going to have to continue from the federal government to allow us to continue to provide these critical and necessary life-sustaining services to every California resident across the socioeconomic spectrum.
Thank you, Senator. And, you know, and that's a good reminder. And I'm going to get to Marquise's question later, but why we got to vote on Prop 15, right? Which is the split roll to reform the Prop 13, which will give more money to local governments because all these programs are interrelated. And the senator has been a champion for after-school programs, children's savings accounts. I mean, we're in the city working on wage replacement, COVID wage replacement programs. There's a lot of these. So that gets me to actually Irma's question. And both Fabiola and Melany, I think you got both two of you will be the best to answer this. Obviously, people could go to my website and Senator Holly Mitchell's website, but is there a comprehensive list of resources and financial aid that makes it easy for women in need to access assistance? Fabiola, you wanna?
Yes, well, at the county level, there you can go to the Los Angeles County Office of Education website, and let me pull the specific information, and also you can go to the here it is. You can go to the, sorry, I'm not finding the specific information, but let me tell you, you can go to LACO, and you can also call the number
311 for the county, probably. Senator?
211.
I was just going to say, as she's looking it up, I think every level of government, both individual elected officials, everybody has worked really hard to make sure that we've got accessible websites that are updated and refreshed. I don't know that it's realistic to think that you can go to one place and find out about everything. So, you know, go to the councilman's website, go to your supervisor's website, go to my website. I'm very proud that we've made our website on the COVID relief bilingual, English and Spanish. We update it regularly. And so I don't know that you can go to just one, but if you go to 3 or 4, you should have a comprehensive list. Go ahead. Did you find it, Fabiola?
Yes, I did find it. It's just I'm having problems with my internet. I'll get back to you, and I'll also put it on the chat. Is that okay?
Yes,
Also,
yes, definitely.
Also, I would just like to add that you could go to the Childcare Alliance page. They have a lot of resources up there. And also from that page, you can find all of their member organizations like Crystal Stairs, for Children. I don't have the list in front of me, but it's a great list, a lot of resources. And you can find the R&R that service your community.
Melany, did you want to add anything?
I was just saying that the county line 211 is a great resource as well for everything related to the pandemic.
And again, we will email and also put on my website everyone's contact on this webinar as well as the previous webinars, and get you connected with everyone else as well. I want to ask Marquise's question, because this is good. And probably I'll let the senator chime in first, and then other folks could jump in. It says, hi, I'm Marquise Olison, founder of VotePlan.us, an organization on a mission to make sure everybody casts a ballot by making plans to vote on or before Election Day. Need for Childcare will present a challenge for mothers who want to vote. Is the state or local governments making provisions to help parents vote, especially those who are, because of childcare, they can't vote? That's one. And two, I want to also give platforms for folks for on this November ballot what they need to vote on. So, Senator, you want to?
Yeah, I think the governor and the state legislature, including yours truly, did the absolute best thing we could do to make sure everyone has the opportunity to vote, which was to, for the first time in state's history, mail everyone an absentee ballot. It doesn't matter if you were a permanent VBM vote by mailer in the past, but because of our concern about the pandemic and not wanting people to have to stand in long lines at voting centers, everyone will get an absentee ballot at home. I think it's our collective job to make sure that people understand that. So when they get it and think, what is this, and throw it away. So people have options. You can mail it in. Those absentee ballots will drop October 5th. I've been in webinars with the Secretary of State who has a high level of confidence in the system he has put in place here and safeguards he has put in place here in California. So you get it early, it drops October 5th. Do what I do. I get it from the mailbox. I go straight to the kitchen table and fill it out right then and walk back to the mailbox. Because if I let it get lost in that mound of who knows what on that kitchen table, I might miss it. So as soon as you get it, vote early and mail it in. If you aren't comfortable mailing it in, we have voting early in LA County, and there will be voting boxes where you can drop it in. And so it's not as if you only have to wait till November 3rd to vote. You will have a variety of options, unprecedented in our states and our county's history. So while we're not providing extra resources for you to have childcare just to go vote, I would encourage everybody to have a plan and plan ahead. You will get a ballot in the mail if you're registered. If you are not, please register. You can even register as late as Election Day. Now, that would be the last option from my perspective, to wait until November 3rd to register and show up at a voting center to try to vote. You should fully expect that you go wait in line for a good number of hours, and that shouldn't be your fallback plan.
And everybody, thanks to the legislature and the Secretary of State, everybody will get a vote by mail at home. And the county has recently, and the city as well, has recently put up a lot more voter drop-off boxes at over, I think, 1,000 locations. So you could drop it off in a voter drop box, or you could drop it off in a mailbox. I want to go back to the question that Gloria brought up, and this is a two-parter. How are childcare facilities, both centers and home-based, doing in converting their facilities to be COVID-19, and also provide online learning support for school-age childcare? This is from Jill Bauman. And also the second part of that question is, I understand there's a $15 million in school-age children childcare funding due to COVID-19 in LA now available. Is this being utilized? On that, Gloria, maybe you could talk about what you've done as in your workplace setting, how it's changed.
Yes. Let me talk about the fund. And last week I was on a webinar, and we did get that information out from the county, and it's childcaregrant.lacda.org. But what we have done at our center, we was out for a long time, and we continue to have weekly Zoom meetings, a lot of professional development with staff. So parents are not coming into the center. We check the children in. We had a touchless system. We have an app that each child parents, we send it to them in advance, and they check the child in at the gate. The child enters, we check temperature, and then we spray we even spray their shoes, and they step on the rug, they wash their hands, and they go into their classroom. We had to install more plumbing. We put several sinks outside, and some of our classrooms, we had to order sinks and hand washing equipment. So they just arrived this week. They was back ordered, and we separated the spaces in the classroom for the children. We're trying to make it as child friendly as possible because it was an emotional toll on kids that they was with their parents for a long time, and now they're coming back into the center. Even the parents, we had to really talk to them and let them know that it's safe. Originally, we had about 20 scheduled to come in. Probably about 14 of those children showed up, but each day we're starting to increase the number of children that we're serving. We had to look at our policies and procedures. We had to create new operating guidelines, and it takes a lot of time on administrators and teachers and just coming up with these guidelines. And the other challenge is changing every day. One day you can take 12 kids, 14, 16. So now we back down to 12. And also how many teachers we can have in the classroom with the 12 kids. And also, how do we make sure we're taking care of our staff? Are they taking their breaks? Because it's a lot of stress on everyone, from the children to the parents, the teachers, the administrators. But I think we're really doing a pretty good job. All of my teachers are back, and everybody seems to be happy. We haven't had any cases. We got started on September 8th. We take adult temperatures. We taking everybody's temperature, and a lot of hand washing, wearing our masks. And I really feel good that we will be safe if we just follow the guidelines. We're in contact with community care license. So it's really going well.
Thank you, Gloria. I don't know, maybe Fabiola, Gloria mentioned about the $15 million in the child care funding available to the county. Fabiola, do you know, can you provide a little bit more information on that?
At the county level, the child care essential workers that need support with childcare can look for information at the website that it was already shared on the chat. At the county level, there is also a grant application for centers. The application closes though on Friday, so it's Friday at noon. So it's also important that anyone who wants to apply for that grant can do so before Friday. And I'll also add that specific website to the chat.
Great, thank you. And you know, I want to
add just couple things.
Of course, Senator.
Just as budget chair, you know, this is very important to me that we worked really hard to work collaboratively with the provider community and parents to really figure out what we could do. So we've like eliminated family fees. We went through this process. You know, you have to sign in and sign out for childcare. So we really tried to be thoughtful and listen to the provider community and parents about how the state requirements, how state community care licensing could make adjustments to meet the needs for these kinds of safety protocols. We added funding for childcare slots for essential workers, people that may not have previously qualified for a subsidy. So we've done all we can to support providers by continuing their pay, by increasing paid sick leave to 14 days, recognizing the COVID reality, helping parents by eliminating their family fees, because if they're not in childcare, they shouldn't have to continue to pay fees. So I think every level of government has tried to be really creative to think through this system and remove barriers and remove burdens while we all try to get through this together. So the state stepped up to do our part as well.
Great. And Melany, from your research, from a research academic perspective, is our economic structure built in a way to allow for true gender equity? And what would an economy that works for women look like?
That's a very loaded question, but I'll try my best.
And I'll let others chime in too. Yeah.
You know, just really quickly, I wanted to raise a point about the child care services, and that the June 2020 National Association for Education of Young Children Child Care Survey showed that, you know, on average, enrollment is down by 67%, and that 86% of respondents are serving fewer children now prior to the pandemic. And at the same time, they're incurring substantial costs for staff, cleaning supplies, and personal protective equipment. So when we think about reimagining systems like childcare, you know, and caregiving and these types of things, you know, Senator Mitchell is right on with like providing those relief efforts through paid leave and rethinking how we value these industries as essential. But we have a long way to go to bring equity to our structures. Going back to Marquise's question, Prop 16, you know, is on the ballot, and that will create opportunities for all. And so I think it's important for people to learn about the initiative, because from what we know from studies, you know, white women were the biggest beneficiaries of affirmative action. And so what Prop 16 will do is repeal Proposition 209 that, you know, that bans these types of programs, right? So I think, you know, that those are the kind of barriers that we need to remove from our systems. And so I think, you know, for gender equity to happen, you know, we have to think about the life cycle. So everything from, you know, as Ms. Davis said, from the cradle to the grave. And so what kind of interventions do you make in terms of providing financial security over time? So if that's having like, you know, baby bonds or, you know, savings and accounts at birth, to like having education, to having, you know, being able to have a home and, you know, have retirement pensions. So, you know, I think California has a secure choice program right now that's providing retirement programs for workers that don't have pension plans through their employers. So these kind of strategies are starting to disrupt traditional systems, and you know, this is the time that we need to rethink our systems and our policies and bring equity to, you know, LA, California, and beyond.
Thank you, Melany. I don't know if great. I want to get this question in for everybody. We could start with Gloria. For people on this webinar who might want to help and get involved with the work that you're doing, what's the best way for people to do so? And also, for those who might want services for childcare and employment assistance, where can they go to find help? Obviously, you don't have to go through all your websites because we will compile all of it and put it on our on my website or and email it to everyone. But how can people help and how can people get resources? Gloria, you can start off.
Okay, how people can help. They can volunteer virtually on Zoom. We have a reading program with our preschoolers. So that's one way you can volunteer, and if you're interested in that, you can info@gcla.org. Wait, let me check. No, I'm sorry, info@gcla.org. If not, I'll get it right. But also, we need volunteers for our food program. We're still giving out food, and we definitely need volunteers every Wednesday and Friday. And what you will be doing is packing the food. Sometimes the food come already packed in boxes to go, but we need folks to bag that food, and you can reach us the exact same way, or you can go to our website, www.girlsclubla.org, and volunteer.
Thank you. Fabiola?
This conversation is very complex. You see, you have the state, you have the federal, you have the local, you have every city in the county, also 88 cities in the county, and each one can also respond to their constituents in a different way. What is also important is to see that this conversation has to step outside of parents and step outside early childhood advocates. This is a conversation that, because childcare is so important and it impacts children's future, it is a conversation for all advocates, including those that advocate for our cities and parks and rivers and everybody who is just interested in our future. So specifically though, to learn more about early childhood matters, childcare, you can go to our website and sign up to receive our newsletters. And it's a very good way to receive more information. And also I encourage you to go back to our website and click on different languages, because our information is also available in different languages, trying to respond to the needs of the county. And the website is first5la.org/newsletters.
Thank you. Melany, do you want to add anything? You're on mute. Oh, there you go.
Oh, well, I'll just say that the LA City Human Relations Commission is going to work with the Mayor's Office of Immigrant Affairs to develop some resource soon. So I can share that with your office once it's available.
Yes, thank you for that. And actually, I was going to mention we have Capri Maddox, the newly appointed Director for Civil and Human Rights Commission. And they're going to be, and she put it on the chat box, they're going to be up and running in 2 weeks, and they will have lots of resources. Thank you to Capri for joining on this panel. And yes, we will make sure we share that information with all of you as well. And Senator, do you want to add?
I appreciate it, and I'll bring it to rear. First of all, Gloria, I did a reading. I read the Pout Pout Fish for one of our national early childhood education organizations that asked people to read. And you know, I miss my calling. I really should be a preschool teacher, because seeing me read Pout Pout Fish is entertaining in and of itself. So yes, I want to encourage everyone to find a way to volunteer. You can read a book and record it and send it to Gloria and any other early care and education organization. They would love to have it. I have a specific task for everyone to participate in. The bottom line is we need resources. So I need everyone to call Mitch McConnell's office and tell him we need $50 billion for childcare and the COVID-19 relief bill. You can call Congresswoman Pelosi's office and Senator Schumer's office to do the same. Here is the phone number. I'm not going to give you the excuse. She told me to call. I didn't know the number. I'm going to give it to you. To call your member of Congress, area code 202-224-3121. Get on your social media accounts and tag #SaveChildcare, #Childcare Providers, tag Speaker Pelosi, GOP leader, Senator Schumer, making sure that the federal government knows that the states and the local governments need help. And we need $50 billion to make sure that our child care infrastructure is sound and ready to meet the needs of every child in California who is entitled to and deserves high quality, accessible child care experience. So call the Senate and your member of Congress.
Thank you for that. And Senator, you know what, while I have you, since you started bringing other Congress members, you know, and this goes to several other questions and encapsulates it about how we talk about childcare is infrastructure. And actually there is a bill from Congresswoman Catherine Clark, whose bill is actually called Childcare as Infrastructure Act. You know, what do you think about this bill, and how, and if you could explain it, and if you and I'll have another panelist explain why childcare is infrastructure. I mean, we already briefly touched on it, but you could kick it off.
I appreciate that. And I think when we think about childcare as infrastructure, it's not just bricks and mortar. It's the infrastructure of a highly trained, consistent, well-compensated workforce, right? That's a part of the infrastructure for childcare. It's also making sure we have enough, we call it slots. And my colleagues in the legislature say, Holly, what do you mean by slots? I say envision chairs. We have to expand access to childcare. We don't have enough slots or chairs or spaces for the number of kids in California who really need it. So what we've done at the state legislatures to try to increase reimbursement to help with that infrastructure and to expand the number of seats, little chairs available for kids who need it. So, you know, the problem with me, Councilman Ryu, that some would argue is I'm a policy wonk, A, and B, having led one of the largest child development agencies in the country, I get down in the details when it comes to early care and education. And I appreciate that the Congresswoman has a bill. I think it could be better. The dollar allocation in her bill is not enough. I support Senator Warren's bill of more reimbursement. And it's also how you spend it. The Congresswoman talks about the importance of providing child care for parent students on college campuses. I have an amazing West LA College, Southwest College, many colleges have, USC for that matters, have wonderful on-site child care. The challenge now is, thanks to COVID-19, so many of those institutions aren't open yet. So I don't want to spend that money now for those facilities. Can we spend the money for the community-based facilities like Ms. Davis's that are open and providing services now? We can come back when schools are open, those colleges, and make sure those child care facilities have the resources they need. But I don't want to spend it there now when they're closed, when we have programs like the one Ms. Davis and others run that are open, doing the hard work every day. So her bill could be better. It's always great to have child care champions. It's one, we've come such a long way. In just the 10 years I've been in the state legislature, when I got here, far too many people still literally use the term babysitting. And so I believe we've done a great job to educate, to talk about the importance of a professional early care and education infrastructure with providers that are supported. She also has a lot of requirements about college credits. And in the ideal world, that's fantastic. But I have to tell you, some of my best child care providers when Ryan was an infant were those, you know, wonderful senior sweet women who had been in the industry for years, who used old school mother wit to take care of my baby. And so we also have to acknowledge that there are a good number of people who have been in the industry so long, and how we bring educational opportunities to them. Sometimes it's not, you can't shut down your business to become a full-time student. That's not realistic. And so how we improve the quality of the field, but by acknowledging the reality of the largely women and women of color and older women who are in the field as well. How do we help them increase and improve their quality? And First Five has certainly been at the forefront of that for a good number of years now.
Thank you, Senator. Thank you for that. And I know some other attendees put in various articles about childcare as infrastructure, and it is so crucial because, you know, it is all inclusive, right? When we talk about paid parental leave, I mean, I'm going to let Fabiola chime in here. She gave you the statistics, first 5 years of a child's life. I mean, the first 2 weeks of the child being born. I mean, it is very important for the parents to be able to bond. And that's what paid parental leave policy is. We're the only developed country in the nation, I mean, in the world, that doesn't have it. along with Papua New Guinea and another country. And, that's why children's savings accounts, after school programs, it's all interrelated. And thank you, Senator. When you talk about infrastructure, it's not just about bricks and mortars in a building. It's the fabric of our social infrastructure. So thank you for that. And Fabiola, I know
and our willingness to pay for it. I got to say before Fabiola weighs in, we had a paid family leave bill up in the legislature the last day of session that barely squeaked by. And so people who are participating have to reach out to your elected officials and tell us what's important to you. Now I'm gonna zip my lip.
No, and that was very exciting because we passed it. We're pushing in the city of LA, and we're like, hey, this is a great race. Whoever gets there first. I mean, technically the federal government should be stepping up, but clearly we got to wait till November. But until they do, it doesn't matter who gets there first. The feds, the state, or the city, we all need to get there. But Fabiola, I know you want to chime in here.
Yes, thank you. In California, not all workers have a job protected leave to bond with a new child. And that is some 40% of the state's workforce risk losing their jobs when they stay home to care for their families. And this means that many new parents do not take leave following childbirth. This is sad, number one, but it's also a missed opportunity for new mothers to bond, new parents to bond. It's beneficial for the mother, it's beneficial for the new baby. And identifying how paid family leaves also serves employers and employees, because employers, as the senator said before, may be taking care of older parents and or sick spouses. So we really have to think about what paid family leave is for, other than birth and adoption. And now for where childcare is intersecting is that also this type of benefits is good for retention of employees that seek benefits that offer a work-life balance. They have attractive benefits for workers from different generations who are taking care of many more generations at home. And this is a conversation for everybody. When families thrive, communities thrive, businesses thrive. It's not only the person who is affected personally. So also, I'm going to put on the chat, in case you want to read more about family-friendly workplace policies. We have, in partnership with the Los Angeles Area Chamber of Commerce, my colleagues in the Strategic Partnerships Department published this analysis that can give more information on all these issues, how they intersect, and where are some possible solutions that everybody needs to be a part of.
Thank you for that. And growing up, my parents, our childcare for me when I was growing up with my brother and sister was my grandmother. So that was childcare for most immigrant and minority families. So Melany, since we do have you're the director of the Asian American Studies, I want you to kind of comment.
Associate director. Sorry.
Only a matter of time. Only a matter of time. But I want you to comment on the model minority myth that's pervasive, and if you could kind of share in particular the special, unique challenges that maybe Asian American women have, and if it's different or same as other ethnic groups.
We don't have specific information for women, but what I can tell you from different surveys is that, industries that employ high numbers of Asians have been particularly hit hard by the COVID pandemic. The unemployment rate for Asian Americans in hospitality and leisure in April was 39%. In the other services category, the rate was 40% for Asians, but say 19% for whites. Where a lot of Asian American women work in nail salons, hair salons, and laundry services. And so we're seeing that, employment numbers have been up. In terms of small businesses, 233,000 Asian American small businesses closed from February to April, representing a decline of 28% in just that 2-month period, compared with like 17% of non-Hispanic white small businesses over the same period. And so we've also seen that during the pandemic, we've seen this rise in anti-Asian sentiment, which raises this question of whether these types of disparities will continue and be exacerbated as the economy reopens. And so, I think similar to many women of color, Asian American women that work in these types of industries are facing similar challenges in terms of having, to care for their children on their own, but then being hit hard economically and can't, so if, if going back to work is not an option at this time, what does that mean for the future in terms of their safety net and their economic security? And then also, if you do, for those who can return to work, the childcare expenses are also, they're rising as well. So there's just, there's these challenges that we have to balance and try to figure out together. I'll leave it there for now.
Yeah, no, thank you. And I'm sure people saw the article, especially for nurses and healthcare workers. Enormous amount of percentage of them were not just Asian American, but Filipinos, who had an extraordinary high rate of COVID infection. And this is what we're talking about earlier, how women and women of color are disproportionately affected. And you remember, when we talk about frontline or essential workers, we're also talking about housekeepers, right? It's all of these folks who are reliant. They have to get paid so they can put food on the table. I want to, wow, more questions came in, but you know what? I'm gonna let Gloria, this might be the last question for you, Gloria. But I want you to have one more chance to talk about, there's an attendee that asked, there are two separate challenges for working mothers. One is for under school age and the other is for distance learning. How many companies assist providing resources as we address the needs of employees as well as the needs of the employer? So you could talk about it from your perspective, which you already kind of did, but also how you can make recommendations for companies. Oh, unmute. There you go.
Well, somebody unmuted me. I mean, those are some challenges that the financial challenge that we struggle with. Parents, they're working at home, and the child, then they're trying to help the child also learn at home, and it's hard to do both, and it's really difficult, and then also the parents are worried about their child falling behind academically, and it's frustrating to parents. And I think what we really need, we're going to have to, as you was talking earlier, women are overrepresented in these health systems. So a lot of the burden a lot of the schooling responsibility falls on women, and with facilities closing, they continue to be and they have to do the unpaid household work. That's huge. So what I think need to happen, and we need to limit. We need more access to unemployment benefits. It was cut off back in June. I don't think we're still not there. We need to support women, both that manage their work and caring responsibilities. Government should provide more childcare options for working mothers and fathers. We as childcare providers, we must work together. We got to share information. We got to think carefully about how we support women and girls. We have a group called the Early Learning Alliance with 17 different providers. And we come together monthly. We provide professional development together. And we have been doing this for the last 5 years. So we've really had to step up and help with policies and just help all around. We need to promote more flexible working arrangement for families with these responsibilities. We need to support women entrepreneurs and small business owners and provide training and financial support to increase the chance of their business surviving. We're seeing a lot of family childcare closing. We're seeing a lot of centers closing. So we just like we need like the same as we need roads, bridges, cars for the bridges, wires, pipes, plumbing, electrical, water and gas. We as a great society need things like childcare, social service, mental health service to keep our families growing and prospering. So, when we start talking about childcare infrastructure, it seems like something abstract, but this is some things that we really need to make the society work. For instance, now we have First 5. When I first got into the field, we didn't have First 5. I mean, we was more looked at as babysitters. But now we have a way that we can really change the system if we want to. But we got to make early education our priority. A lot of times you see bills where they start with K through 12th grade. We need a system that starts from prenatal all the way to 12th grade. We need to strengthen our workforce, increase compensation, and professional development for the workforce. If we want to have the society that we dreamed of, and we got to start with our youngest learner, and that's a prenatal to 5 years old. I feel very passionate about this, and we cannot. This area has been underinvested for so many years. And places like the center that I run, we pick up the load, we carry that. I have to do all type of fundraising just to make it work and try to provide a level of quality. And it's difficult, it's very challenging. So I'm just so glad that we need more conversations like this. We really do need more conversation around early education, because we need a major campaign here in Los Angeles to make early education a priority.
Thank you.
And just last, the brain development is so critical at this time of age. I mean, once, the window closes, it can open, but it's slowly opens. So we really need to look at this more closely.
Thank you, Gloria. And you know what? You dovetailed into the final question and I always want to make sure I have the president of the Commission on the Status of Women, Jackie Fila, and she asks to always wrap it up. As experts on the ground in Sacramento and in research, what can the city of LA, what can I do? I know we've been working together a lot, and Gloria, you already mentioned a lot. And thank you for that, for dovetailing into this, but what can the city of LA do to help fill these gaps in childcare and economic opportunity for women identified in this discussion? And also, if I could add on to that, what do you think is the future of childcare, right? So I will give it to Melany. You want to go first, Melany? Closing thoughts?
Sure. I think we need to start with reframing our discussions and thinking about how childcare is an economic driver. Several states' studies have already demonstrated that high quality, affordable, accessible early childhood education ensures a strong workforce, a strong business, and a strong economy. And so putting together the policies and also the infrastructure in place, I think will be key. And, really, getting folks to understand that, for a new vision of our economy, we would just really have to create one where all individuals can flourish in the future. And equality should not be like a rival against neoliberal free markets or, a trade-off, but it should be a prerequisite for it. And so I think these moments of crisis present an opportunity for our social and racial justice advocates to collaborate more and work collectively to bring about real change. And one of those essential industries that we need to also rethink is childcare services.
Thank you for that. Fabiola?
Thank you. Yes, well, continue thinking how bills and policies can support workers and especially employers that have very few workers, right? That's where the most gain is, and how new bills require employees to offer 12 weeks of unpaid time off for family leave. So this will be coming up on January 1st. More policies like that, more changes like that, and having a conversation again that is outside of the early childhood sectors. This is a conversation that requires everybody. And for businesses, there was a question about how do we address the needs of the employer as well, asking them to be a part of the conversation as well. Not we're all in this together, and that's something that has been proven in these past months. there's a lot of creativity, there's a lot of innovation, and there's a lot of support that in this city and in the county, people want to be generous with those supports. So thinking about that, and also as Gloria mentioned, really thinking about how there's a system that can include prenatal and all the way into beyond 18 years of age, beyond. Brain development, to continue it, it keeps developing, right, until about the mid-20s. It continues to grow. But those most precise connections about executive function, they continue into the 20s. So if we want to take care of our children and really provide them the supports they need, and also paired with brain science, maybe we can think of expanding how these systems are connecting to one another.
Thank you, Fabiola. And I'm going to let the senator have the final word.
Thank you, Councilman. First and foremost, to have you and local leaders understand the unique challenges women face as workers, as care providers to our parents, to our children. Thank you, and to Adina for convening us and giving us this opportunity and space to engage in this conversation. And thank you, Fabiola, letting me know that the executive function will continue to form in the 20s, because mine is 20 and I needed to hear that today. Thank you. I like Gloria, I was around in the industry before the voters. The voters passed Prop 10 that created First 5. It was the voters who understood and bought into this notion that those first 5 years of development are overwhelming. I remember sitting in I think it was a budget hearing, Councilman, and there are 2 centers for the study of poverty in California, one at Stanford, one at UC Davis. And the director from UC Davis came to the legislature and did a presentation on the impact poverty has on the brain development of children. And I will never forget these slides as long as I live, because it looked like the difference between a I Love Lucy show and the new HD TV, 3D TVs. It really did. On scans of brains for children born into poverty, who stayed in poverty, and children who aren't. Gloria and Fabiola, everyone knows who works in early care and education, the language deficit. Children born into poverty, enter preschool and kindergarten, being exposed to thousands fewer words than children in households of means with books and resources. And my deep, dark fear is that those children sometimes never catch up. And so all the work we can do at the onset from 0 to 5 is critical. And making sure that every child, regardless of what zip code you were born into, your parents' immigration status or income or the kind of employment they have, should have access to all the resources we can collectively give them so they can thrive. That's got to be our job as government. That's got to be our responsibility, I think, as a civilized society. Governor Brown used to talk about California was a state of innovation. Well, if we want to continue to be the state of innovation, we have to invest in our youngest residents, because they're the ones who will be UCLA students and will get those patents at UCLA and Cal, get more patents than any other universities anywhere on the planet. That's because of young minds who are being creative and coming up with those innovative ideas. And we have to pour into these children and invest to create the opportunities in which they will have the capacity to grow and learn and maintain a state and a county economy so I can retire in peace sooner rather than later. So every level of government has got to do its part, private sector, public sector, the philanthropic community, to make sure we're creating these opportunities for young minds. And I'll say my last bit, Councilman, call Congress and tell them to send us those resources for early care and education. Our lives are depending on it. Thank you, Councilman.
Thank you, Senator. This has been yet another fantastic conversation, and I want to again thank all of our panelists for being here today. Ms. Gloria Davis, Fabiola Montiel, Melany de la Cruz-Viesca, and of course my state senator, Senator Holly Mitchell. I also want to make sure that everyone is aware of the programs that my office is providing. In partnership with Melany and LA Works, we are connecting local volunteers with seniors and working moms who might need to help run errands, groceries, medication pickup, anything else. So if you want to sign up to help others, or if you are a single parent, senior, or especially an essential worker working long shifts and don't have time to run basic errands, please don't be afraid to ask for help. You can sign up for this program and it will connect you to others, most likely in your own neighborhood, because there's a whole community of people out there who are willing to lend a hand. So you can sign up for this program and connect with many other resources at my website, davidryu.laCity.org/volunteer. And if you want to learn more about everything that we talked about and all of the panelists' information and organization and links to their organizations will be on my website, davidryu.laCity.org/COVID-19. So please continue to be safe and take care of yourself. You can always reach out to my office if you have any questions or need help connecting with resources. You can email me at david.ryu@lacity.org or by calling 213-473-7004. So again, thank you to all the panelists and thank you for everyone attending this webinar, and I hope everyone got lots of information. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Such an honor to be with you all. Okay. Bye.
Bye-bye.